This is one of those how I ended up here tales. A few years ago, I did a trilogy called Patchtown Pieces, which documented the history of coal towns in western Pennsylvania. Now, I plan to do another trilogy of that this past winter, but college got in the way. I'm not gonna lie. College took precedent. I was not able to go out and film this past winter. One of the towns that were on the docket, however, was Boswell, Pennsylvania. It's a little coal community located in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Then I started thinking this summer, well, the reason I want to go to Boswell is because what stands here, or well, what once stood here. And it was a landmark, not just for the region, but for the entire world. So we're going to trek down here into this little park, and I'm going to tell you the tale of the world's largest coal tipple that once stood here in Boswell, Pennsylvania. I was not expecting to see this park well marked, but here we are. One of the Heritage Corridor signs is located here, Industrial Heritage along the Lincoln Highway. And you know what this means? You get to listen to me stumble through the English language. So there's a couple photographs of the Tipple that used to stand here. Southwestern Pennsylvania is a landscape of ridges and valleys that have provided natural resources to generations of settlers. One natural resource was coal. Coal mining became the provider for many families in the Boswell community and neighboring areas. Today, Boswell remains a well-preserved coal mining community. In 1920, the largest coal tipple and viaduct in the world was located on this site. The viaduct measured 1,800 feet long and 60 feet high. The Merchants Coal Company operated Orinda No. 2 mine and Merchants No. 2 mine, which produced 475,000 tons of high-quality bituminous coal and employed 507 workers. The company provided houses and stores so workers could conveniently spend their wages. The coal was first hauled using a 1,000-horsepower steam locomotive and heavy steel ropes. The company called the steam coal Orinda to distinguish it from their competitors. Orinda means magic power in the Iroquois. And again, I'm a Yinzer. The Yinzer language has been voted one of, if not the worst dialects in the United States. So not only do I mispronounce English, I mispronounce indigenous languages as well. So if that's not how O-R-E-N-D-A is pronounced, I greatly apologize. Powerhouse provided electricity for equipment for hauling machinery and for lights in the mine and town. The pump house, made of cut stone sandstone, provided water to the mines. Today, Orinda Park, created by the Boswell Historical Society, is dedicated to the heritage and history of Boswell. And down here, we got some bricks from the Jenner Brewing Company, which was built here in 1913, demolished in 1998. It was actually located on Route 601 south of the town. So I don't think these were actually located on the site. I think the Historical Society brought them here and kind of made a little bit of a rock garden out of them. Interesting way to use rubble. The Boswell Brick Plant was opened on May 1st, 1910, and then sadly burned down on June 29th, 1911. Wow, it did not last long. The value was $17,000, employed 20 to 25 men and boys. And this gentleman right here is Thomas Boswell. He was born in 1859, and he was the president of the Merchants Coal Company, which established the town of Boswell for their mining operations. Now, the town itself was opened in 1901, around the same time that the coal began being dug out of here. I wonder if the Merchant Coal Company thought that they were building some of the best potholders known to man 100 years ago. Interestingly enough, the Merchants Coal Company was not from the Pittsburgh area like most of the coal mines in this region were. They were actually based out of Baltimore, Maryland, so it was quite a haul from their headquarters to come up to where their mines were here in Boswell, Pennsylvania. Something that the Merchant Coal Company did that was a little bit unique at the time and very expensive. Instead of just building simple wooden frame houses, duplexes for all their miners, they had a variety of homes, which they did have A-frame homes. I'm pretty positive they had duplexes up in town, but there was a lot lot of single dwellings, which the miners affectionately called the bungalows or the cottages. And just about every other home that was initially laid out was made out of stone or brick. And the reason for that was to prevent fire. A lot of these patch towns had gotten wiped out around the turn of the 20th century because somebody overturns an oil lamp, one house goes up, and then down the road it goes. So the Orna mines were actually almost about a mile or so that direction, because these are the abutments for the Tipple that would have brought the coal over from the mines over the Quinnimahoning Creek and then dumped them into hoppers on the Baltimore and Ohio branch railroad branch that was right there on that embankment. These abutments kind of look like the ruins of Pompeii or some long forgotten ancient civilization, but in fact they're only about 100 years old. The entire weight of this trestle that would have once been 90 feet above our heads was over 820 tons of steel, and that was cast down in the Columbia Bridge Works down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, there was no railroad to Boswell when this was established, so they had, I don't know why, but the nearest town all the stuff can get to was Stoystown, which was 8 miles east of Boswell, and it'd be brought the rest of the way over this treacherous terrain. This is very hilly terrain, even though we're not on top of Laurel Mountain or Allegheny Mountain. We're kind of on a plateau. It is hilly terrain. So imagine trying to bring 820 tons of steel, granted it would not have been all one piece, from Stoystown over the mountains. I can't imagine all the horse-drawn to bring them here. But they achieved it and built the largest coal tipple in the world. This panorama down here gives you a good idea of the operation. So we're standing right about here. And if you look over in this direction, that would have been the main mine operation. So somewhere over there on that hillside, it's all farmland today. And then the coal would have been trucked across the Tipple, across the Quinnimahoning Creek, and then into the Baltimore and Ohio rail yard. And then the town of Boswell's next to that. There was a train station. They got free. It looks like they got 2 tracks here. There's probably a third one underneath here. We got a sub track here to load and offload. There's the powerhouse where the steam engine would have been fueled by a boiler, and likely the coal they're using to heat up that boiler was coal brought right out of the mine. They said it was good coal after all, very, very efficiently burning coal. There were 4 chutes in the main Tipple over here. 3 of them dropped into the rail cars, and then the 4th one dropped right into the powerhouse. Yep. So I answered my own question. Thanks, brain. Thanks for remembering that. But yeah, the 4th chute would drop in coal from the coal mine to power all of the machinery and send power into the mines as well as into the town of Boswell. And as you can see here, there's some of those brick structures I was talking about. A lot of brick structures, brickstone structures, which is unusual for a coal town. That's expensive work, but built to last. The people that take care of this property have a very nice gazebo, and it's pretty big. They got about 4 or 5 picnic tables down here. Wonder if they have events. Anyways, a little bit more about the Boswell coal operations. Most of the men that worked in these mines were from Hungary, they were from Poland, some Germans, a lot of Slovak, all that type of mixture. Only about 8% of the workforce at the turn of the 20th century in Boswell was English speaking. Yeah, very, very, very interesting back then. But that was typical. That was typical of a lot of the coal towns in western Pennsylvania. What is atypical about Boswell is, instead of all the different cultural groups being isolated in different ethnic cliques around the town, there's no signs of ethnic neighborhoods developing in the town. It was all mingled amongst themselves. Sadly, it appears some people aren't as appreciative of this relic. As you see, we got graffiti. And here's the tricky part of the entire trestle system. Because it had traversed the Quinnimahoning Creek, and you got a big stone abutment over there. In addition to your normal rock falls that likely claimed lives in the Oranda mines, there were two noteworthy accidents. The first of which was back in 1909, claimed the lives of 5 individuals in a methane gas explosion. Another gas explosion occurred in 1915 and led to the deaths of 22 miners. Just across the creek from where the park is today, that is the ruins of the pump house. It's one of only 2 surviving structures of the mine operations. And powered by the steam engines up inside the powerhouse, they would have pumped water out and then distributed both up to the town as well as back to the mines. So why is a landmark like this not here anymore? Well, coal dried up in the 1930s as a result of the Great Depression. Price of coal went down. A lot of mines shuttered up in the mid to late 1930s in western Pennsylvania. And the Oranda mines were no different here in Boswell. They closed in 1939, and in 1940, the entire trestle was scrapped. I am looking south of what was once the right-of-way of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, at least their Boswell branch, and where you see the cars going under. There was a bridge over the highway. What my grandfather has noted me, I believe it was standing up until the 1990s. I could be wrong on that. Now this was all abandoned, I believe, by the 40s or 50s, but I believe the trestle was still in place till the 90s. We just want to come up here, see some of this equipment. Some of it is coal mine related. And there's a locomotive, a mine locomotive. Got the headlight on both ways. You see the pedal for the brake and your throttle. Not really much to it. Now, this cart has Hillman Coal and Coke, and for the record, I don't know if this is actually from the Hillman Coal Coke Company. I believe the Historical Society may have painted these. They had 2 carts like this back at the site of the Tipple. In any case, that was one of the companies that ended up buying out the Merchant Coal and Coke Company and owned these operations for a period of time. And there is the powerhouse for the coal mines in Boswell. It's still standing, like I said, made out of stone. If you could visualize, the Tipple would have come from over here. And right over there is where it would have ended and dropped into the coal hoppers waiting to ship it off to the market. It's a good thing that the building's still being used. All right, let's get a dude here from Oranda Park in Boswell, Pennsylvania. We got to see what once was the world's largest coal tipple, but there still are ruins here to explore, and it's interesting to see the local historical society, instead of having some business person come in and develop this land and tear all these stones up, they kept the ruins, and these once supported the town's main commerce 100 years ago, and now they're continuing to support the community in other ways. Well, thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, the first thing you can do to help us out, hit the like button. Let the algorithm know that you want to see more history videos. Next, be sure to subscribe to Readout Productions. We live, explore, and preserve history, one video at a time. And if you want to go the extra mile to keep me on the road and wake me up in the morning with a cup of cappuccino, you can provide me a small donation through my Ko-fi link in the description below. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.